Want to expand your speaking and storytelling skills and grow your influence business? This is Speakipedia Media, brought to you by Speakipedia.com. I'm your host, Dave Bricker, bringing you straight talk and smart strategies from visionary speakers, thought leaders, and storytellers. My guest is an expert in virtual reality and 3D imaging. But when he's not wearing a VR headset, he's deeply engaged with real reality. He's here to tell us about his recent trip to Nepal to climb Mount Everest. Please welcome CJ Singh.
Pleasure to be here, Dave. It's great to talk to you.
Thank you. So Mount Everest has a very special appeal because at 29,032 feet, it's the highest point on planet Earth. And that's not an adventure to be taken lightly. So what motivated you to do this?
It's been one of those things that we've been talking for many, many years with my friends. Like, it's time. We're past 50. We know when you hit 60 plus, something breaks. So we're all said, you know what? We need some adventure in our life and let's do this. And the Mount Everest, the whole Himalayan region growing up, that's always been like this awe-inspiring natural beauty, the clouds, the skies, the peaks. It's been part of the upbringing. So we figured, this is the time to go explore that area and look at that range from our viewpoint.
I love that. And there's certainly a mystique you hear about Tibet and the Himalayas and Nepal, and it's a whole other world. And what have you done along your life journey that made you say, I'm ready for this climb? Because I can't imagine this is the first mountain you've ever climbed. Like, I'm just going to go to Everest. Did you just wake up and say, I'm going to climb Everest? Or I know this has been on your bucket list, but have you climbed other mountains?
So actually I have not climbed other mountains, so actually, no, what? I take it back. When I was about 15, right? So there is a place which the Sikhs, which is my faith, we consider it as a holy place where people visit, and it's at about 15,000 feet in northern India. It's in the Himalayan range, but not as far as north as where we went. But that place is revered. People go there. So when I was about 14, 15, the family took a trip and we climbed that mountain, and I remember some of those things that came back when we went this time to the base camp, so some of those things started coming back. The feelings I had, the awesomeness of what you see around you, the journey, the trip, the rocks, the pebbles you go on. So it was all there. So that was a long time ago, but this adventure that we all did together, this just we did some local hikes and stuff and prepped for about 8 months, and we said, you know what, let's just do this. We'll figure it out as we go.
So there's that prepping for 8 months that you're just
Yes.
mentioning. I thought so.
Yes.
So if someone listening to our conversation wants to undertake this big challenge, how should they get started? And I ask this because, look, people see a musician after a big performance, or they see a sailor stepping ashore after a long passage, and they see that big smile of accomplishment. But what they don't see is the hours spent rehearsing or the 30-foot seas. So what is that path from dreamer to doer?
So hardest part is getting started, right? So for any of these things, I've done marathons and stuff in my life as well. The hardest part is just getting started. Either it be training, or so that was the hardest part, getting started. So initially, a whole bunch of people and friends said, okay, we're all going to do it. But then when we said, okay, let's go, half of them quit. They're like, oh, this is not for us. But we kept on, right? So a group of us kept on, and we said, we're going to do this. We actually got a tour company to help organize the trip for us, right? So we got a tour company to help us because, to understand local, where to stay, what to do, where to eat, and plus you need guides and Sherpas for this trip. So, getting all that organized, we hired a company which is based in New Delhi. Even though this is in Nepal, Kathmandu, this company is in New Delhi. They helped us with organizing the the day-to-day schedule and whatnot. And then it was shopping. We did tons of shopping. Why? because you need these kind of pants, you need these kind of shirts, you need these many layers. So we did like I felt like we spent like 3 months shopping for stuff, anywhere from headlamps to socks and to name it, because the weather is very unpredictable. So there was a lot of guidance on be prepared, because you could go from cloudy to sunny to rainy to windy in a matter of hours. So you have to be ready for that. So the third thing was the physical aspect of it. We had to make sure these knees are still working. So we did a lot of trekking in New Jersey, New York area. We found hiking places. We set up all these WhatsApp groups. Hey, we're going hiking on Saturday. Let's meet at 8. And we hiked for like 4 or 5 hours. Then there was also an exercise routine we started doing with, going up and down stairs. So again, getting ourselves mentally fit, physically fit, getting the right gear. Those are the kind of things you have to kind of, get ready for.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because people, again, they just say, oh, I'm going to go pick an adventure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is the people you need to surround yourself with. You need expertise. You need guides.
Yeah.
And people who are not willing to get a guide because they think, well, that's not an adventure if I go with a guide.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it absolutely is a very important adventure if you go with a guide, and it could be a deadly adventure if you don't. I mean, depends on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And then getting the right gear, a lot of reading and researching, right? A lot of watching videos of people who've gone ahead of you. What problems did they run into? We've got such great resources for preparation, and yet how many people just take off into the wilderness?
So, I mean, the beauty of it was I'm not the researcher for this. So we had other people in the group. They're really good at this. So they went, they did the research, they did the shopping, and then they created a list. This is what you need. So I was like, okay, I need this. I need this. Oh, there's a sale. I need this too. So then we kind of, got all the stuff together. So it was good having that group with people with different expertise, bringing together, their part of it, and then trying to do it all together for everybody.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are items that you spent a lot of money on that you ended up not needing, but had you needed them, they would have been life-saving. I think about things on a sailboat, like a drogue. I mean, you get in a big enough storm, you need a sea anchor, you need things that you hope you never use. But what a difference to have that stuff. Now, you mentioned that you planned this with a bunch of friends, which is fantastic. And this always happens, right? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, wait a second. We're really doing it. I can't do this. And then either they find an excuse or they realize that it was fun to talk about, but actually doing it is a bigger commitment. It was more fun to talk about it. And then what kind of response did you get from friends and family? Because I remember when I told my parents I was going to sail to Europe, they weren't really enthusiastic about that idea. And sometimes if we have a big dream that involves some risk, the people who love us are the first ones to say, are you sure you want to do that? Because they want us to be safe. Was that a challenge for you, or did you just have the right people say,
No,
go
that was a
for
big
it?
challenge. Actually, there were two parts to it. The first part is, so initially, like I said, we had like a lot of people who said yes, then half of them backed out, but we kept going after them. I said, you guys told us, so we told us, listen, we're not winging it. We have a professional company who's going to guide us. People will be kept safe. People will be watching you. You'll have place to stay, place to eat. Everything will be taken care of. So majority of them came back. So initially they all walked away. Then a lot of them came back and we joined the group. We had, husbands, wives, just husbands. We have all sorts of combination. And regarding, letting family know, and especially kids, and, we're taking this adventure, we got to make sure we have our wills written, right? Make sure that the kids know where the wills are. So those are some of the difficult conversations saying, okay, they're like, why are you doing this? How risky is this thing? We're like, no, it's not risky, but it's just, it's still something out of our element. God knows what can happen. So everybody was like, why are you doing this? So I think I'm going to come back to a question you said, that we went to the Everest. So we're going to come back to that. I want a big clarification on that, right?
Oh
We went
yeah.
to the Everest range, not the Everest, but we'll come back to
Well,
it. But I think that's the impression people get, that you're about to climb Mount Everest. That is a whole different level, and that's one of the things we have to clarify, that we're not climbing Mount Everest. That, in my for me, that's a one-way trip. You go and you go. But yes, the some of the conversations were difficult, but everybody in the end said, you're known to do crazy stuff, so add this to the list. So
and it's fascinating because the people who tell you it's so dangerous, many of them drive on the expressway 2 hours a day.
exactly,
And if you look at the statistical odds of you being safe versus them being safe, they don't think anything of it, right?
exactly. Yeah, we
Fat,
had lots of guides and Sherpas around us. On New Jersey Turnpike, you don't get any of those.
yeah. And we've seen what happens when
Hmm.
somebody falls asleep or doesn't pay
Yeah,
attention. And
yeah.
I think it's a lot more dangerous. I always felt like all those people on I-95 were in a lot more danger than I was in the middle of the ocean.
True. Absolutely right. Because
It's all,
you're watching. It's new to you, so you're more careful. So
yeah. So, and you just brought this up, but look, I did a little homework. Everest Base Camp is 17,598 feet high, almost 18,000 feet. And that's pretty high. Many people, they helicopter in, but some like that challenge of the hike up from surrounding areas like Lukla. So, to those who don't know better, base camp sounds like the ground floor. It's like, well, isn't that the parking garage elevator? What's so big about that?
yeah.
But
So the beauty of base camp, and which is where we went. We went up to the base camp. Is that's where people who climb the summit, they stay there. They stay there for 2 months to get acclimated, to understand the surrounding area, to test their skills, to test their gear. They climb local mountains, but they come back to that. So they keep coming back from there. The real climbers, which I'm not, they go to Camp 1, Camp 2, Camp 3, Camp 4, and then the summit. So we went to the base camp, met some of those people who are going to climb. Actually, they should be climbing this week. This is the week that they actually summit. And I mean, it's the beauty of base camp is it's A, very rugged, B, very beautiful, and C, this is where you get to meet people who are actually going to climb Everest. So all of that is like, to me, those are celebrities. So those are the people who are like putting it all out there and spending 2 months trying to achieve this. So for me, the journey from, like you said, Lukla to Everest base camp was the key. So the the oxygen level is low, so you get acclimated, and it gets higher you go, the more oxygen concentration in the air gets lower, harder it gets. So but base camp gave us everything, gave me whatever we needed without the risk of the climb.
yeah, and certainly a climb that still will tax you, will challenge you.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
so talk a little bit about, I mean, first of all, how do you get to Lukla? I doubt American Airlines flies to Lukla. That's got to be a journey in itself. And then once you get there, you're in a different world. You're with these people who have lived their lives in the shadow of the great
Mm.
mountain. They've
Yeah.
seen people come and go and come back. They've seen people come and go and not come back.
Hmm.
They must have a whole different culture and a whole different perspective. So how long did you stay in Lukla before you took the hike? And what did you discover there?
So so this whole journey is, you go up for 8 days. So you start at Lukla, and then there's like 5 different stops you make on the way. So you start from Lukla, you go to and you start hiking, right? You start hiking immediately. So beauty. Okay, so step by how to get to Lukla. So there's no direct flights to Nepal from the U.S. So either you have to go through India or you go through the Middle East, and then that takes you to Kathmandu. From Kathmandu, there is a bus So we actually stayed in Kathmandu, did some local sightseeing, get acclimated to Kathmandu's height. And then from there, we took a bus that took us to an airport, which was then going to fly us into Lukla. It so happens that Lukla Airport is one of the tiniest runways. So a lot of people have longer driveways than the runway at Lukla. So anybody they should look at videos of how planes land on Lukla Airport. So unfortunately, we didn't get to fly into Lukla Airport because Lukla was closed because of the weather. And so we took helicopter in. So we took a helicopter in, and then from there, once you land, is when you start your hike. And then after that, for 8 straight days, you're going from Lukla to Fat King to there's towns that end with the name Boche, Bocha. We're trying to figure out what that means. So I think that means like a farm or something. So there's Teng Boche, Ding Boche, Labuche. So all of these different places that you go to, and in some of those places you stay the night, because every time there is anything more than like a specific number of climb that you do, your body needs time to acclimate. So we would stay there at night in some of these places. So one of those places, a beautiful place, was a place called Namche Bazaar. So it has the word bazaar in its name. That means it's got shops, and there was a lot of art and culture there. There were monasteries there, and then we stayed there an extra night, and we did some local shopping. Right, I bought a beautiful painting that maybe I'll share a picture with you once I put it up. But off the area. So we stayed there. We stayed there in hostels. These are they're called tea houses. But essentially, you get a singles room or a doubles room, and there's a common kitchen area and a dining hall where everybody meets and eats, and you go back to sleep. So our daily routine was such that we would, in the morning, start the hike around 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, hike for 5 to 6 hours with a lunch break in the middle, end up wherever we were going to end up in any of the boches or any of the places, and then sleep, get up, and do it again. So, and you just keep doing it for 8 days, and it's tiring as hell on some days, but you keep doing it.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I would imagine you never know who you're going to end up with in these little tea houses, in these dining rooms. Who's sitting next to you at the table? And it's just this idea that you are being paired up with these completely random strangers from all over the world, and sit down. And I know that I met some amazing people sailing under the same circumstances, and that's part of the joy of the journey.
So that was one of the most impressive things that I felt, was meeting people from all over the world, in these tea houses during the trek. So, there's multiple people on the same journey with different tour groups. So some people were like a day behind you. Some people are going along with you. Some people are a day ahead. So you would run into them at different areas. And there were people there from Australia, New Zealand, a lot of people from India. There were people from Kyrgyzstan there, which is like one of the countries next to Russia. There were people from Africa. There were people from France, England, and Russia. We heard every language that I could think of, all these languages and accents, but everybody was just in there for the journey, and we were giving each other high fives and stopping for each other when somebody had to pass, or checking on somebody who was like bent over. So just to check and see, but everybody was taking care of each other. We were having fun. An interesting episode is in one of the treks. This is early on when we were, getting to Namche Bazaar. It's a beautiful hike. I mean, there's trees. You're below the tree line, and it's a wide hiking area. So we started singing some Bollywood tunes, and there's a guy who like rushed and caught up to us. He had the same song that he wanted to sing. He just had it on karaoke for some reason. He said, "I'm gonna play this, and I'm gonna sing it with you guys." The best experience. So it's just so many wonderful people we met on the way.
Yeah, and you really, when you travel like that, the people you meet in the middle of nowhere and you find that no matter where people are from, no matter what
Mhm.
their faith is, people are all the same. They want
Yeah.
the same things.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was, we could, everybody was huffing and puffing, right? In their own languages, you could tell there's extra breathing that they're doing. But everybody had a smile on their face. And there was one lady from France, I remember, she just always walked with like the giantest smile. So I said, "You're the biggest smile on the trek." There was this guy from Australia, this big guy. And we were giving each other hugs because we were crossing each other multiple times, and he was just like, "It's so great to meet everybody." And I was like, there's some people I do want to meet them again, hopefully in a pub somewhere. But there were tons of those people on those hikes. Loved it. So I had one person. She was like some Instagram influencer person. I think that was a lady from Kyrgyzstan, and she was like a great photographer. So I saw her taking pictures of, I'm guessing, her boyfriend. So I said, "You know what? Once he's done, I want you to take some of my pictures too." And she took some amazing pictures of this, and she was just so good at it. So but unfortunately, I didn't take anybody's contact info. So hey, if you see this, look me up. I miss you guys. It was nice meeting you.
Love that.
Mm.
So if you're just joining us, you're tuned into Speakipedia Media. I'm going to edit this and do it again because I need to clear my throat. So if you're just joining us, you've tuned into Speakipedia Media for aspiring and professional speakers and thought leaders who want to make more money by changing hearts, minds, and fortunes. My guest today is 3D and virtual reality expert and Mount Everest Mountaineer, CJ Singh.
Everest Base Camp expert.
Well, okay, you bring that up. And maybe some of our listeners are disappointed to hear, like, you didn't get to the summit. Hey, Dave, why didn't you find someone who made it all the way up? I mean, I had Neil Peterson on this podcast. He sailed around the world alone. And look, I only crossed the Atlantic. And I had a friend with me. So, yeah, I guess I'm a loser, right? So many people focus on the final ultimate step and they miss the journey.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of wisdom in your choice to go part way up. Talk about that decision.
So I think, I wanted to put this into perspective. Like, what am I here to do, right? What am I trying to do? Right? The challenge to climb a mountain is a challenge. But what I was there to do was to experience the beauty of the area, right? So to me, that was very important. The challenge of climbing the mountain didn't really register, right, as a challenge to me. The challenge was to find time to be able to explore this part of the world, something you've always dreamed of, right? So to me, that was the big reason for doing this: explore the area, go with some friends and family, go with and experience just the beauty of that area, and just the way, the more you climb, the environment changes, the clouds come in, and you can't even feel like you're standing there. The mountains look like they were drawn. Literally, I'm standing there, it looked like somebody actually drew them with charcoal, like they were black and white sometimes. And so to me, those were the experiences I was going for. The physical aspect of climbing Mount Everest, the summiting it is not something in me. That's a different type of challenge, but it doesn't give me the excitement. This is what gave the excitement, being able to see the vegetation, see mountain goats. We saw mountain goats. We saw this bird, beautiful colors, and it was like a little peacock bird, which was never there. The local people, who live in those areas, little kids with big round cheeks, red cheeks, men and women of that area. So to me, that was the more exciting part. And that's what I went there to do. Everything else was nice to have.
And I think that's wonderful because, for example, I see so many people preparing for a speaking contest and they do a really good job, but they don't win. Maybe the judges like something else. And well, that's always disappointing, right? Because you want to be first place. But did you learn? Did you grow along the way? Did you get better? And I think people look at the top of the mountain there's no room for mountain goats or people of different cultures. It's a point.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I climbed Pico in the Azores, 8,000 feet, and it's perfect. There's this little, it comes up to a cone that's maybe 10 feet across,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a little cone on top of the cone. You can stand on the point of the mountain. It's just, right? But one person at a time can stand
Mm-hmm.
on the point of the mountain, and there's no place else to go but down. I
Yeah.
think people focus on that end goal and they miss this idea of like, I'm going to do the scenic route. I'm going to meet the people. I'm going to see the wildlife. I'm going to explore the terrain. Who cares if you get to the top?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things I'm loving the most about this interview is this idea that, yeah, you went for you. You didn't go to come back with a trophy, an ego trophy.
I mean, to I realized that during when we started that, like this is what's happening, right? So when, it's a big group we had. So the Sherpas would divide us into, hey, who wants to go to, the first group? They're the ones who are going faster, and then the second group a little bit faster. I was always in the last group. Why? Because I said, I am not here to count my steps. I'm not here to win. Hey, I got there first. I got there. So I said, we're going to measure. I said, I'm going to measure this by not number of steps. I'm going to measure it by PPS. I'm like, what the heck is PPS? I said, pictures per second. How many photos am I taking? So in on my phone, I took everything from my phone. I took 1,459 pictures in those 8 days. I said, I'm going to measure this journey by the memories that were created, the memories I was able to capture. So and it was not about the finish. It was about the journey. I was literally like in most cases the last or the second, third last person in this, because I would stop after a while, look around, and if I find something, I would take pictures. I ran into a guy from New York City on the trail. He was like, I got to take a picture with you. I'm like, why? He's like, okay. So we took him. I was like, where are you from? He's like, New York City. And he works in one of the, known buildings here, and we exchange information. So I was there for, just to meet and absorb. And to me, that was the win.
Yeah, it's like people who spend their whole life accumulating money
Mm-hmm.
and then they die with millions of dollars. Well, maybe you could have lived a richer life in a different way. I mean, I don't want to judge people, but
Yeah.
I love the approach you're taking. So, CJ, there's always someone who wants to create the world's longest paperclip chain or learn to recite pi to the 10,000th digit. And then there are other endeavors like, yeah, not me either. There are other endeavors like running a marathon, crossing an ocean, or climbing a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And these tend to be more appealing because they're powerful metaphors for life's challenges. We all have mountains to climb. I'm a business owner. You're a business owner. And what mountaineering or adventuring principles have you been able to apply to your life and business?
I think the biggest thing was, there were times we were walking, and then the local Sherpas who, they said, slow down. He said, slow down. If you don't slow down, the mountain will make you slow down. And it happened so many times. We said, okay, I'm gonna go there. But no, the terrain, the beauty, and there's, you're walking, there's a river next to you. You have to sit there and stand there and observe it. You got to watch it, soak it in. So either it was that, or the oxygen levels will drop. So now you have to, or you have to go up a mountain like this, zigzag up, and you see, it was like, whoa, we got to do this. So this was the biggest lesson, is just to slow down, observe what's happening around you, and and learn from the locals, learn who's the people who are there, learn from them, learn from people on the ground. So those are some of the things that I kind of took on, and I hope I remember it and get to use it in my personal and business life.
Yeah, you can certainly grow your business too fast. What do adults tell you when you're a kid? Don't try to grow up too
Yeah.
fast. And of course we
Yes.
all do, right? And
Yeah.
we learn and we suffer
Hmm.
for that. We
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
hopefully get old enough to try to impart that same futile advice to our own children.
Yeah. I think just getting that slowing down also helps you just kind of look back for a second and look forward for a second and look around for a second to get different perspective. And if you're slow, then you will, maybe meet people who are like you, who are, slow like you, but they're also thinking and observing, and you get to meet interesting people. And it was funny in one of the one days I'm like, I'm gonna go with the first group. Let me just see, what that is all about. So I literally walk with them for 15 minutes. I'm like, you know what? At lunch break, I am splitting with you guys. I can't deal with this pace. I'm not getting what I'm, here for to soak it in. You guys are just like flying through this painting that you're in. You're not watching it. So,
Yeah. So I meet a lot of people who are brand new to sailing, which is my adventure drug.
hmm.
And I always tell them, because they're into the romance of the sea and
Ah,
I mean, certainly I am too, right? But I tell them you're going to have the best and the worst times of your life on a sailboat, and I can tell you stories about being seasick, cold, scared, and wet. And I can also tell you about things I've seen that are magical, otherworldly, and utterly impossible to explain. I have to guess that mountaineering is going to deliver the same extremes of experience. Can you share a few of the downs that maybe made you swear you'd never set foot on a mountain again? And then share a few of the ups that make all the cold and wind and danger and being out of breath
hmm.
make that all worthwhile.
It's exactly what you said, right? There are times it's really, really hard. So the hardest thing was when you go up above a certain height, right? Um, the facilities that you expect for simple things, toilets, hot water, bathrooms, they don't exist, right? Some things we're used to, the type of toilets we're used to, the type of facilities we're used to, they do not exist, and you have to quickly adapt, right? So that was just the facilities, staying in these tea houses, sorry, which are cold. You wake up, there's no light. There's because everything is powered, and they use solar power, and there's no electric lines coming there. There's no gas lines coming there. So they actually carry gas cylinders on yaks, which are used for cooking and hot water, and so all the resources are very limited. And so you are in an environment which requires you to the daily comforts of life, that turn the button on and you get heat and hot water. None of that exists. So it took a little bit of, we knew it was there, but when you actually see it and smell it, then when it hits you, so that made it hard, right, for both men and women. And it made it hard that, on the other hand, the food served in these places is out of this world. Okay, so there's a cafe. Okay, it's called 4410. So that's the height in meters, which is over 14,000 feet, and one of the best cafes in the world is there. They serve some of the most amazing cakes, cappuccinos, 15 different types of drinks, and you get like a plate full of popcorn. So and it's a great place. Everybody comes and hangs out there. And in this whole trek in Namche Bazaar, in Dingboche, in Labuche, there are like some fantastic bakeries in this place, which is amazing. And I had mushroom pizza at at like 15,000 feet. It's like crazy. So, but it was the food was great. So you got the both sides of the digestive system. One is really bad and one is really good. So you're gonna have to find the right balance.
Yeah, but when you're in a remote place and you encounter a fantastic meal, it's
mhm.
that much more special.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's I mean, there were other days when you were at this height. It's funny how your body reacts. At a certain height and oxygen level, your body doesn't get hungry. And you're like, walked for 6 hours, up and down, and I'm not hungry. That's weird. So you force yourself to eat, and you get others to do the. Some people like me, we couldn't sleep for a couple of nights. You're so tired that you can't even, but you can't sleep. So those were the other negatives, right? So your body's reacting and adjusting to an environment in which you're not able to, you kind of have to figure out ways to deal with it. Couple of our buddies, when they got up to this height, their bodies couldn't react. There's a condition where if the oxygen level drops, your body goes into this phase that you actually have to be sent immediately back to a better oxygen level.
Hypoxia, right?
Yeah, it's some sort of an hypoxia, and then we had them. They had to be given oxygen in a clinic, and then next morning we flew them down, and within hours they were back up. It's like a balloon deflating. You're back up. So those are the negatives. But then again, you walk, you take these pictures, and you see these hanging bridges. Amazing, like big hanging bridges connecting mountains, and you just and you stand in the middle of the bridge, and you look left, you look right, look up, look down, and then you just forget everything. It's like this is the best. So, you know, like felt every emotion that there is to be felt in this trip. So it was just awesome.
Sounds like it's out of some strange fairy tale.
So I look at these pictures now, and it does look like it looks weird. Like, oh, we were there, and we just came back like 10 days ago. Uh, so but it looks like a very fairy tale-ish. Looks like I just visited another planet.
Fantastic. So something I hear associated with public speaking all the time is this theme of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And then people ask me if I was scared to sail alone in the Bahamas or cross the Atlantic in a wooden boat. And the answer is, of course I was. And of course I'm nervous speaking in front of a bunch of people. And fear is what keeps us alive, right? If you're not afraid, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But there are motivators that are stronger than fear. And I think you could say, if you're not afraid, you're not really challenging yourself, and maybe it's time to live a little harder.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the idea that courage is not the same thing as fearlessness, because so many people let fear keep them from experiencing, succeeding, risking, loving. And look, at the same time, like you didn't want to go to the summit, I'm not going to go sail the Southern Ocean to go to Antarctica.
Yeah.
I hate the cold. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to experience 70-foot seas full of ice chunks. So, talk about this idea of balancing risk, fear, and moving forward in life.
So fear, I think the way I look at fear is, to me, the fear is just starting something, right? The way I look at things is the way I have the fear is, not being able to start on any of these challenges, right? But once it's there, then the fear kind of goes away, and you find your way, right? So there's this concept in Sikhism which is called Chardi Kala, which roughly translates to relentless optimism. So it's basically, once you start on that journey, and then if you keep positive, things just keep happening. So like even on this trip, right? So there was a night where I'm laying down, and this is again at 15,000 feet, and then my heart just starts doing this, and I'm laying down. It's like my heart is racing, and I'm laying down. If you're running or if you're walking, your heart is racing. You know what to do. Like, I don't know what to do, and I was afraid. I was like, what is happening here, right? But I'm like, you know what? I'm here. This is new to me. This is new to my body. I'm going to just get up and walk. And that itself, when you walk, you're breathing heavy, your heart calms down. And it was just one of those things. So, but it just, you keep finding your way one step at a time, so that's kind of how I looked at it is fear is a beautiful thing, right? It kind of gives you your limits and then gives you an opportunity to go past it. And there was fear when I saw a couple of our buddies, going through this situation where they felt like they were being choked and they're going to die. And that was very fearful to see that, hey, this could happen. But again, you sprung into action and said, you know what? This is common. I knew about this. There's a clinic nearby. We're going to go find somebody who's going to help. And the doctor sprung into action and boom, problem was controlled. So I think it's just it's a good motivator to have. But if you just keep a positive mindset, and things will happen.
Did you find, as I did, that when there's really a moment of crisis, there's a part of you that might want to panic, but you realize that that's the worst thing you could do?
Yeah.
And you realize, look, I can't call 911. I'm out here in the middle of nowhere, and if I don't deal with what's in front of me, and so you end up very calm and very peaceful in the face of sometimes very dangerous circumstances. I think there's something that kicks in for us.
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky in the sense that there were locals around us. So when something unusual happened, I'm not thinking, okay, where's my 911 and why don't I see an ambulance come? No, you go to the local person and say, hey, I'm seeing this. What do you suggest? And they know, like, we are one of 100,000 people they've met, right? So they quickly, give us the guidance and say, okay, do this, do that. There were times when people couldn't just walk. They were just so tired that they're like, hey, listen, this person needs help. So either they would say, you know what, the Sherpas can carry your bag, you walk. Or they'll say, you know what, you want a horse? We'll get you a horse to take to the rest of your trip. So I think that the lesson here was, in an unusual place, a different place, go to people for whom this is usual, right? So you got the locals, and they knew the answers. They had the phone numbers. They had the 911 that we weren't aware of. So, but I guess on the sea, this must be harder. You can't go to the sharks for help.
No, exactly. And of course, up on the summit, then you're back in that same set of circumstances.
True. But actually, even on the summit, the beauty of this, at least the Mount Everest, is anyone who climbs, they take 2 or 3 Sherpas with them. The Sherpas know the local terrain, they know the local environment, and you have to listen to them, and they will take you there. So local help is also very much, the key to that success.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because you have people from all over the world who want to go climb Mount Everest, and it's their big adventure. And these Sherpas, that's what they do every day. Some of them must have been up so many times and they don't think anything of it. That's just what they do. It's all perspective.
Yeah, some of my team members, so if you just look it up, this happened 2 days ago. One of the Sherpas went up to Mount Everest for the 29th time. It's a world record. He was on that trail with us. Okay, so he was actually going there, and these guys go set up the area. Like every season, they go set up the ropes and the ladders and the ropes. He was one of the Sherpas. He was one of the first people to climb again for the 29th time. I mean, for them, it's like, me going to Disneyland. So it's like they're doing, but I haven't been to Disneyland 29 times. This guy climbed Mount Everest 29 times.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That brings me around because I know that some of the people listening to our conversation are thinking they need to have this great big story. And I know you professionally. You tell stories with technology every day, and they don't involve grandiose adventures.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about the power of delivering a valuable experience and how it isn't necessary to run a marathon, survive cancer, sail around the world, or climb to the summit of Mount Everest. if you want to inspire other people?
I mean, these adventures are good for you personally, but what's also good is just the local things that you do. You know, the things that you do locally in your community, in your family, in your, you know, friend circle, just the little things, the everyday, the daily steps. You know, those are as important as any of these grandiose adventures. So, you know, being able to, you know, help out in a community center, church, or, you know, teach somebody, like I teach dance to kids. You know, just being able to give that back, I think that's, you know, even more inspiring, because this adventure for me is like a 8, 10, 12 day thing, right? But the rest of the time, what do you do? I think that's what's more important. And doing something small is I think on a regular basis is almost as important in doing these grandiose things.
It's the small, meaningful stories
Yeah.
that really impact more people. The grand adventures are fun to listen to, fun to read about, and they're certainly fun to experience. But yeah, it's those little things. I adopted
Yeah.
a dog 3 weeks ago. Why do we do that? Because we get great stories that last for years, right?
Yeah.
It's those little things. So CJ, any new big adventures planned, or is it too early to ask that question?
So so we did start, you know, like there's some people want to go to Kilimanjaro and some of these other things, and I'm you know, I like to choose a different adventure. You know, like I ran marathons before. I might do another one of those in October. I think the Toronto Marathon is looking exciting. Um, maybe another one. You know, maybe to Peru or somewhere else, somewhere in South America, just to see that part of the world. I think will be exciting. But now, you know, I have a much more appreciation for what hiking and trekking and mountaineering is all about, and you know, a lot of respect for people who do this on a regular basis, and especially the ones who climb summits. You know, that takes a special level of heart and soul and knees and, you know, their physical body. But yeah, so nothing quite planned yet. But you know, I think adventure is something. New adventures is something, you know, just gets my juices going, and you never know. So
And you've got a whole garage full of mountaineering gear that
I
literally has
know.
your name on it.
Exactly, exactly. We got these wonderful shirts that you can literally wear in 32-degree weather, and a single shirt you will feel warm. It's that clothing that, you know, God bless these people who made these things. Hmm.
Well, CJ Singh, thanks for joining me today. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Dave. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and it's always been fun, you know, working with you and seeing your creative juices, and I love the fact that you picked up on the fact that this, you know, this thing is something that was important to me, and that you were able to catch on and said, let's record this while it's fresh in your memory. So I, you know, truly appreciate you picking that up, and you know, inviting me to your studio.
It's been wonderful. I'm Dave Bricker, inviting you to explore the world's most comprehensive resource for speakers and storytellers at Speakipedia.com. If you're watching this on social media video, please remember to love, subscribe, and share your comments. And if you're listening to the podcast, keep your hands on the wheel, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next episode of Speakipedia Media.
Thank you all.